Alrighty, so originally I was going to do the review of the matinee games right before the busy Saturday night action, but by the time I was able to finish watching the first two game in full, it was already around 4:35 p.m. my time, and basically all the busy game action starts around 4:39 p.m. my time, and yeah, there was just no way I had time to basically do the review of those two matinee games. I mean, I could have easily paused those 4:30 games, but I just decided not to. So instead, I'm going to do the traditional review that I'm going to do pretty much a lot throughout the season, which is going to first look at the first 8 games before looking at the last 6 games, and that of course includes tonight's game between the New England Revolution and LAFC, because we still have one more game left for match week number 3, and I'm not going to do the review of that game between LAFC and New England after the game is over, because by the time that game is over, it's already 9:30. I need some sleep tonight because I got only 4.5 hours sleep last night because of the whole daylight saving kind of thing that just kind of completely wrecked my sleep. But that being said, let us actually talk about the first game. And by the way, from what I saw from this week, if you like goals, this definitely was not the week for you, especially from what we'll talk about in the first part of the review, where goal scoring was definitely down in terms of this week, and it's been down for the last 2 weeks too. We haven't seen a lot of high scoring games like what you maybe seen in an MLS game, and the chaos that we've seen in MLS before, it definitely didn't happen a lot in terms of this week. Although if you want to count the snow Classico in Minnesota as one of the chaotic MLS moment, then be my guest to do so. But anyway, enough with the rambling. Let us actually begin with the first one, which is Charlotte and Atlanta United. And depending on what LAFC and New England does tonight, Atlanta might get the honor of scoring the most goal a team has scored this week. Yeah, pretty much every team did not score more than 2 goals, unless what we'll see in the game between LAFC and New England. And this was definitely an impressive performance for Atlanta United, and maybe just kind of statement win to show that, yeah, this is a team that is slowly starting to figure it out, and maybe slowly going to believe that they are definitely back being an Eastern Conference contender. Now, early on, they did a great Tifo tribute to Anton Walkes. I mean, I had a feeling that they were going to do that because, knowing two teams that Anton Walkes used to play, you knew that they were going to have an emotional tribute, and they did exactly that. But I also noticed there was a lot of red inside Bank of America Stadium, and this is not a big surprise because knowing the fact that Atlanta and Charlotte is not that far between each other, there's going to be some Atlanta fans that attended this game, and there was definitely a lot of red that I saw in those turquoise seat inside Bank of America Stadium, and they were also very loud too. I mean, when Atlanta scored the goals in this game, you can definitely hear they were making the noises, and I would say this was one of the loudest away cheers, or loudest cheer an away team has done when they score the goal. And in fact, they were able to give their away fans something to cheer just 4 minutes into this game, as Caleb Wiley would score from Amada and Sejdic to make it 1-0 in favor of Atlanta. Little do we know that Caleb Wiley will have a monster game in this one, and I think this game may once again put him on the map in terms of the hype train started to get going, because this is a kid that I think we should definitely look out for. Could be a guy that could be that next big American that might be making the jump to Europe and maybe even have a future as part of the U.S. men's national team. I mean, he's only 18 years old. I mean, that's definitely ambitious to say after one game, but I thought last season there was time where he has shows that brilliance that he can potentially be a great player, and he definitely showed it in this one. But obviously, this goal that Atlanta scored really came off of a bad turnover from Charlotte. That would be a common theme in the first half. In fact, just 8 minutes later, Atlanta would double their lead, and it's Luis Araujo scoring from Wiley to make it 2-0 in favor of Atlanta. That has to feel good for Araujo. You know that there's a lot of pressure on him in terms of performing, and that, once again, it's been a slow start for him this season, and I would say maybe a nightmare start because of that penalty kick miss that he had against the Quakes. That kind of maybe just sums up his time with Atlanta United. But here he scored a big goal here to give Atlanta a 2-0 lead. It was a dream start for the visiting fan, and you can definitely hear the noise that was brought from the Atlanta fans, and pretty much all the fans that was wearing turquoise, yeah, they were pretty quiet throughout this one. Though Shredetsky was on the doorstep of goal, but his shot is crucially blocked by Gutman. Melenda then had a back heel that just goes high and heads into the roof of the net, as I thought Charlotte finally started to woke up after they got off to just a terrible start in this game and trying to press back to get one back. Araujo then chipped one that goes high over the bar, and I just thought that Charlotte need to stop turning the ball over, because this all started because of a bad turnover from Charlotte, and Araujo almost caught Sisiaga out there with the chip, but it was not meant to be. But then in the 31st minute, a penalty was given to Charlotte, or was it? They go to VAR to see whether or not if that was a penalty. Now, what's interesting is that they were literally just seconds away from Shvedetsky taking this penalty, and then literally at the last second, the referee said, yeah, we're going to go to VAR. And that's got to infuriate Charlotte fans, because they were ready to take this penalty. Like, I would assume most of the time they said, well, it looks like they're not going to go to VAR, and indeed that's a penalty. But literally at the last second that they decided to do, and again, just a very late call for VAR there. But they did deem that Lennon did not foul Józwiak in the box, or was it Shvedetsky though? I mean, on the league website they said it was Józwiak that was fouled, but I swear it looks like it was Shvedetsky, the one that was fouled in the box. I'm just gonna go with Józwiak as what the website said, but I'm pretty sure it was Shvedetsky, the one that was fouled in the box. And it's definitely a questionable one too, because yes, there was definitely contact. I mean, when you look at slow play, yeah, it feels like maybe Józwiak or Shvedetsky was the one that kind of bumped into Lennon, and maybe that would have been a soft penalty, which I think that's what VAR thought that it was the case. So nevertheless, no penalty was given. Charlotte didn't get a chance to get one back. Then Barry was through on goal, but Tuluma just got back in time to tackle that one away before Amada's shot took a wicked deflection that goes wide there in the 36th minute. Guzan then tipped Shvedetsky header over before Shvedetsky heads it wide from the corner in the 42nd minute, and it feels like Charlotte has weathered the storm, and now they were looking to try to press once again to get the goal back before halftime. But that did not happen, because Atlanta would score the second goal right on the stroke of halftime. Or actually, not the second goal, the third goal right on the stroke of halftime. Again, I'm still very tired because of 4.5 hours sleep. But it's the young kid again, Caleb Wiley, scoring here to make it 3-0 in favor of Atlanta United. It's a great transitional play there from Atlanta United to give them the 3-0 lead. And I think at that point, I just had a feeling that game was done. Like, I didn't think Atlanta was going to blow a 3-0 lead, and that has to be an absolute crushing goal to concede if you're Charlotte, knowing they looked like they were going to get one back, and now they find themselves 3-0 down heading into the second half. And it kind of felt like it, because in the second half, despite the fact that Charlotte was on the front foot, Atlanta was doing a really good job in terms of limiting the chances, but also due to the fact that you can see the heads were dropping in the Charlotte player. They just could not create anything against a very good Atlanta back line. We then get some pushing and shoving in the 64th minute, again, just to prove to you from MLS that this is indeed a rivalry. Józwiak then hits one right to the side netting. By the way, at this point, I was also watching this game too, so I didn't really pay too much attention into this one because I knew this one was probably over. So I didn't really wrote a lot of notes in the last 15 minutes or the last 20 minutes of this game. Capetti then hits one just high from close range before Amada trying to score another golazo, but he puts that one just high. And then Sisiaga would deny Araujo from close range. And yeah, in the end, Atlanta wins 3-0 on the road, as the shots in this one pretty close. 13 shots compared to the 12 that Charlotte has. 3 shots on goal compared to the 5 that Atlanta has. 6 shots off target compared to the 3 that Atlanta has. 5 shots that was blocked compared to the 3 that Charlotte has. And possession-wise, 56% possession compared to the 44% possession that Atlanta United has in this game. And like I said, it's a great start to the season from Gonzalo Pineda side that, you know, there's that pressure of them needs to get themselves back to being a playoff contender, and they definitely have shown that early in the season. But for Charlotte FC, that's now 3 straight losses to start the season. And I know that there's definitely a lot of concern, you got to say, about the Charlotte team, and even the fan base are starting to kind of turn on Latanzio and even the front office a little bit, because, you know, it's one thing to get off to a slow start like they did in their expansion season, but it's another to get off to another slow start again, and especially with the way that, you know, the season was supposed to be much better than previous year, and instead now it seems like it's almost like the same thing with them getting off to a slow start. So we'll see whether or not if they can definitely turn that around. But that being said, moving on in the next match is Vancouver and FC Dallas. So the good news for the Whitecaps is that they're on the board in terms of points total in the league. You know, coming into this game, losing their first 2 games, they finally got a point in this one. But you got to have a sense that they'll be kind of frustrated that they didn't get all 3 points in this one, especially after that 5-0 win that they had on Wednesday. But it did not get off to a good start because in the 5th minute, Ibiaga would score from Tafari to make it 1-0 in favor of FC Dallas. It was a great cross that was delivered from Cozy Tafari, a center back nevertheless, and he puts it right to Ibiaga, who hits that one in. And yeah, Dallas of course lead 1-0 in this one. And then Takioka robbed Ariola from close range in the 7th minute, and I thought Dallas was off to a flying start. And Vancouver, they were definitely suffering from a letdown after the 5-0 win on Wednesday. I mean, I mentioned this in the preview. You know, it can go both ways for the Whitecaps coming into this. They can either have carry that momentum after that 5-0 win, or they can suffer a bit of a letdown and start off slow, and they definitely start off slow in this one. Now, in the 10th minute, Whitewood puts one straight to pass before he also hits one into the side netting, and that kind of fooled a ton of fans inside BC Place. They even threw the PA announcer, like they were ready to yell the goal kind of thing whenever the Whitecaps score there. But yeah, that did not win in, and this game stays 1-0 for Dallas. But there was no doubt the Whitecaps have woke up. Like, they were pressing to get the equalizer. Pass would deny White in the far post before Schrupp had a long range effort that goes wide. But I thought eventually Dallas did seem to ride out the storm and started to kind of slow the game down, which is something that they kind of had to do. They don't want the Whitecaps to really start getting that momentum and started to believe that they can get the equalizer. Ibiaga then looked like he had a second goal, but he was denied by the post, and that turns out to be a big moment in this one, because just 1 minute later, Vancouver ties the game up. It's Ariola, unfortunately, scoring the own goal here. Originally, they gave it to Ryan Gall, but you can clearly see on the replay it looked like Ariola. I mean, both Ariola and Gall was kind of challenged for the ball, and unfortunately, Ariola just got that last touch here. I mean, whenever the ball is delivered in a dangerous area, that is a nightmare to deal with if you're a defender, and it's unfortunate here for Ariola. Just could not clear this one away and puts it into his own net. And yeah, the game was tied up at 1 apiece, and then right on the stroke of halftime, Vancouver almost made it 2-1, but Pa says no. He robbed White from point blank range. Again, Brian White had a lot of chances in this one, but as it is the case throughout the beginning of the season, he just cannot buy a goal. In the second half, Gall would then miss one just wide from close range. I thought Dallas started to have more of the possession, but it looked like that was by design, because the Whitecaps, you know, they are a team that likes to go on the transition. White then hits one right to pass before Gall would hit it wide from close range. And then Farfan did have a rare opportunity for Dallas, because up to that point, I thought the Whitecaps had more of the chances, but he missed wide there. And then Cordova would hit one right to pass in the 79th minute. And then actually blast one into the stands as both teams started to chase to try to get that elusive second goal to win this game. Velasco tried to do so, but he pulls it just wide from close range. But in the end, it ends in a 1-1 draw in this one. Shots in this one, 11 shots compared to 10 that Vancouver has. 4 shots on goal compared to 2 that Dallas had. 4 shots off target compared to 5 that Dallas had. 4 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Vancouver has. And possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession that Vancouver has in this game. And by the way, there was a lot of draws that happened this week, especially of these first 8 games that I'm talking about, because this was a draw. If I look on the other board, there's also like 2 more draws that is there. So already 4 draws that I will talk about in the first 8 game, and I believe there's going to be another one in part 2 of the review. So again, for those that were thinking, where's all the draws happen after week 1? Yeah, it has happened now in week 2 and week 3, but obviously, whenever a game ends in a draw, it does usually favors the road team, and the road team is more happier, and I think that's kind of the case for Dallas in this one. But for Vancouver, like I said, at least they're off the schneid. They got themselves the first point, but again, they'll be frustrated dropping more points at BC Place, a place that you know that they need to get all 3 points, knowing they're not a really good road team. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, We got FC Cincinnati versus the Seattle Sounders. So now we're gonna start talk about the first of 12 games that happened in terms of the busy Saturday night action, or actually not 12, but 11 games that happened in the busy Saturday night action. And I'm not gonna lie, this definitely felt like it was a playoff game between Cincinnati and the Seattle Sounders, and there's a reason why this maybe could be a preview of MLS Cup this year, because we saw two really good teams in this one going toe to toe. Although, at times it was kind of a bit of a lull in this one in terms of chances wise. But it was definitely not the case early in this one. As 2 minutes into this game, Montero would puts one wide from close range, as I thought the Sounders were on the front foot early. Morris actually went around Salatano there, but he could not quite slots it into the empty net. I thought Cincinnati did start to grow into this game. They had the possession, but again, just struggling in terms of creating any chance against the stealth Seattle backline. In fact, the shots were only 3-2 through 31 minutes. Nuhu then had to clear the ball away off the line after just a miscommunication that he had with Stefan Fry. I think he was hoping Stefan Fry was going to gather that, but Fry was nowhere near in terms of there, and Nuhu, thankfully, he knew that at the last second and just cleared that one off the line. And by the way, that one came after Barriel trying to backheel shot that wasn't even a strong shot, but again, it almost should go in because of that miscommunication there between Nuhu and his goalkeeper. Speaking of Nuhu, we then had some flare up between both of these teams, as Nuhu and Miazga was having choice words with each other. I'm pretty sure they're not talking about how their season has begun, or are they going to meet each other in MLS Cup in December time. But Vasquez then puts it wide from close range in the 45th minute. Vasquez, again, very quiet in this one. But the good news for Cincinnati is that it feels like their front three, at least one of the player in that front three, finally score a goal this season. But we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, I thought the Sounders once again start off on the front foot. Yamar heads it wide from close range, but then in the 63rd minute, Cincinnati gets the opening goal. It's Brenner scoring from Moreno and Acosta to give Cincinnati a 1-0 lead. So, like I said, finally, that one of the member of that lethal front three has scored, as Brenner, of course, gets on the score sheet. And you can also count Acosta also getting off the schneid, even though he got the secondary assist there. And then Brenner trying to go for a second one, but he hits one into the side netting. The shots were still only 7-5 for Cincinnati, with one shot on goal in the entire game for both of these teams. And coincidentally, that shot on goal was the only goal of this game. Ruidíaz then had a free kick shot that was blocked away and goes behind for a corner. But then in the 83rd minute, Hagelin would get himself sent off after VAR deemed that his foul on Ruidíaz is deemed doxo. So here we go again. If you're Cincinnati, get ready to be sweating bullets here, because they need to bunker and trying to hold on as Seattle, knowing that they have a man up. They're going to throw the kitchen sink to get the equalizer. And originally it looked like it didn't work in typical Cincinnati fashion, as Yamar puts it into the back of the net. And I even wrote Yamar score here, but then I actually did go back watching the highlights, or actually not the highlights, but actually I did go back in terms of watching this one. I was thinking, wait, why is it still 1-0 in favor of Cincinnati? I thought Seattle scored. The problem is they did go to VAR to see whether or not if it was offside, and indeed it is. And I think Yamar knew it. Like, the fact that he didn't celebrate, and even Brian Schmitzer didn't celebrate, they knew that goal was not going to count. So yeah, it's still 1-0 in favor of Cincinnati. But that being said, despite it was a lifeline for them, there was still 9 minutes of stoppage, and they were not going to play through to the 9th minute, because part of the stoppage was looking at VAR. So we actually eventually go to the 103rd minute, and again, this was getting to a point where I just thought, are they going to really not blow the final whistle until Seattle does get the equalizer? But thankfully for Cincinnati fans, that kind of holding on for dear life and just on the edge of their seat, and just not able to breathe for 13-minute stoppage time, finally comes to an end in the 103rd minute, as in the end, Cincinnati, a huge 1-0 win over the Seattle Sounders. The shots in this one, 12 shots compared to 9 that Cincinnati has, 2 shots on goal compared to 1 that Seattle has, 5 shots off target compared to 4 that Cincinnati has, 6 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that Cincinnati has, and possession-wise, 51% possession compared to 49% possession that Cincinnati has in this game. And like I said, overall, this was a very entertaining game, and a game that I definitely won't mind seeing this in MLS Cup if that, of course, is going to be a preview in terms of the MLS Cup in 2023, which is very early to say because a lot of things can change as the season goes along. But that being said, moving on into the final game on this board is DC United versus Orlando City. So Orlando, they were trying to do something similar to what they did against Tigres. They were trying to bunker, trying to steal a point in this one, and in the end they were able to do so, but they'll maybe be a little bit disappointed that they didn't steal all three in this one over DC. Now, in the first half, Galese would palm away a dangerous cross away, but that one only goes as far as Ku DiPietro, but his shot was blocked away. Cleek then hits one right to Galese before Galese would rob Benteke from close range there from a great save. And DC was pressing early for the opening goal. Orlando, again, back in that the bus mode that they were pretty much spending throughout the game against Tigres and CCL as they were trying to secure themselves a point on the road, or actually scrap a point on the road, as I wrote there. Galese then denied Ku DiPietro from close, but the ball was recycled, and Benteke had a second crack of it, but he missed that one wide before Santos fired one right to Galese. And even though it was all DC, poor finishing, and El Pupo continued to be a brick wall. El Pupo was not allowing a goal in this one up to that point. It looks like he carried that great form that he had in the game against Tigres into this one, and the game remained scoreless as we head into the second half. Now, in the second half, the first shot of the game for Orlando came as Forhausen would hit one right to Miller, and I thought it was a positive start for Orlando. I thought it was they're just gonna continue to bunker for the entire part of the second half, but credit to them, it seems like Oscar Pereira maybe want to open up a little bit, trying to see if they can get themselves a goal in this one. And it worked, because in the 53rd minute, they would get the opening goal of this game. And what a big moment this is for Duncan McGuire, scoring his first career MLS goal here from Verhulsen and Smith to give Orlando City a 1-0 lead. But that lead looked like it was going to be short-lived, because in the 55th minute, penalty kick was called for DC United as they feel like there was a handball that was committed by one of the DC player, but they did go to VAR to see whether or not if it was handball on Cartiega, and they said it wasn't. And I think it was the right call, because that would have been very harsh for me to say that of course is called a handball. Though I wouldn't be surprised, because knowing what we saw in the first week of how controversial handball call was, I mean, if this was still the first week, I wouldn't even be surprised if VAR would have upheld this decision, because some egregious handball call that was missed in the first week. But the game then kind of becomes scrappy, which really kind of in favor of Orlando. They want this game to be scrappy. They want this one to limit the chances, and they were trying to steal all 3 points away from DC United. Ojeda would then puts one right to Miller, but then in the 80th minute, DC finally equalized, because of course they're going to equalize against Orlando City. I mean, as much as I know Orlando fans were hoping that they can scrap themselves all 3 points, they don't have a good history against DC, especially giving up late goals. And they gave up another late one here, as Chris Durkin would score here from Santos to ties the game up at 1 apiece. And as time winds down, both teams was pressing to try to get the winning goal, but it didn't happen, as in the end, it ends with a 1-1 draw between both of these teams. Shots in this one, 16 shots compared to 9 that Orlando has, 4 shots on goal compared to 5 that DC had, 7 shots off target compared to 3 that Orlando has, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Orlando has, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession that Orlando City has in this game. And, overall, I mean, for Orlando, you would say that, I mean, they'll be happy they got a point out of this one. I mean, that was kind of the goal coming into this one, knowing that it feels like they're probably just kind of punting this game away. But they'll be kind of disappointed the fact that they had the lead late in this one, and once again, they weren't able to hold on to the lead and gave them another late goal to DC for them to salvage a point out of this game. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 4 games as part number 1 of looking at the first 8 games of match week number 3. So moving on in the next game, we got NYCFC and Inter Miami. So this was going to be an interesting game for Inter Miami, because after just a surprising start to the season, the big question is, can they follow that up on the road? Well, unfortunately, the answer is no, but it was not because of lack of trying, and also just unfortunate luck in this game on Inter Miami is the reason why they weren't able to get any points on NYCFC in this one. But in the first half, It was kind of a slow game. I mean, for the first 11 minutes, there wasn't really much that has happened. In fact, the first shot of this game came in the 14th minute, with Pereira hits one right to counter. And then in the 20th minute, Joseph Martinez looked like he reached a milestone, Marcus. He looked like he scored his 100th MLS goal, but unfortunately, the offside flag didn't agree with that, as the goal was disallowed for offside, and rightfully so. It looks like Martinez was just a hair offside, and that, yeah, for Joseph Martinez, it's got to be frustrating because he is sitting at 99 goals. He's this close in terms of finally reaching 100 goals, but yeah, it seems like that it's going to be another game for him to score that 100th goal and for him to score his first goal for Inter Miami. But Calendar did deny Parks, but Pellegrini actually puts it into the back of the net on the rebound. The problem is, he was also in an offside position, so that goal didn't count it, and that would have been an interesting moment to see what would Matheus Pellegrini do. I mean, I'm assuming he's probably not going to celebrate because, this is the team that he's facing that gave him his first shot in MLS, but yeah, I mean, that would be interesting to see if Pellegrini actually did score there and whether he wasn't going to celebrate. I mean, I don't think he was even celebrating at all even before he knew the offside flag went up. But there was no doubt that the game has finally come alive after a bit of a slow start into this one. Pellegrini then hits one right to counter before Negri puts it high from close range. I thought Pellegrini had a good game in this one, and rightfully so, because anytime when you face against your former team, you have something to prove, and I thought Pellegrini definitely had something to prove in this game against his former team. Martinez then pulls it just high from 14 yards out, and if this was the prime Joseph Martinez, that one would have been in the back of the net. But again, with Martinez still trying to get his feet wet in terms of being with a new team, didn't quite work out for him, and also just him kind of being a little bit snake bitten of not able to get over that century mark in terms of goals scored. But what did happen in the 35th minute is we did see a goal, and it's actually Chris Mavade, of course, scoring the own goal here for NYCFC, and he's definitely making Amr Tariq proud of scoring that own goal. Okay, maybe that's a little bit of a stretch because I don't think this was as bad as the own goal that Amr Tariq scored that Austin had against Valletta, because that own goal was just absurdly bad. This one was just kind of unfortunate where McVeigh just could not clear the way cleanly, and it just goes into the back of his own net there. But nevertheless, NYCFC wouldn't care. They were able to lead 1-0 in this one, and then in the 41st minute, Martinez was looking to try to respond and finally break that century mark of goals, but he puts it right to Barraza, and we head to halftime with NYCFC leading 1-0. Now in the second half, this is when NYCFC did amp up the pressure to try to get that second goal. Parkswood hits one right into the side netting from close before Calendar denied Rodriguez from close. Calendar then denied Kerfoot. I thought Calendar had a good game in this one, and I think Drake Calendar, judging by the performance that he has early this season, he could maybe even be in outside contention of goalkeeper of the year this season. But there was no doubt that NYCFC was pressing to finish this game away. Rodriguez then blasts one high in the 84th minute before Calendar would deny Rodriguez from close range. But in the end, NYCFC, despite not able to kill this game off, they were still able to win 1-0 against Inter Miami. Shots in this one, 13 shots compared to 6 that Miami has. 3 shots on goal compared to 7 that NYCFC had. 4 shots off target for the 2 that Miami has. 1 shot that was blocked for the 2 that NYCFC had. And possession-wise, Miami actually had the better of the possession. 57% possession compared to the 43% possession that NYCFC has in this game. So for Inter Miami, yeah, it's a rough loss for them. I mean, anytime when you lose a game on the road where they play well, it's kind of tough. But, the goal that they conceded wasn't even coming from an NYCFC player. So that's going to be a bit of a pill to swallow. But the good news is they do play against TFC on the road, and it seems like that's kind of their favorite opponent to face in MLS. But for NYCFC, I mean, it was ugly, but, they were able to get it done. And at least I think that second half performance is definitely encouraging, because I thought in the second half they looked kind of like the old NYCFC with them creating chances. But, then I would say that they probably would have got that second goal if it wasn't for Drake Calendar performing once again at his best in this one. But now moving on, in the next match, we got the Union versus the Chicago Fire. So the Union, of course, get the win in this one, just barely, but they definitely pay a heavy price of getting this win. So early on, Shiho's had a chance in the first minute, but he missed it wide in the back post. And yeah, for Chicago, these are the chances that they got to bury. When you're playing against probably the strongest team in the Eastern Conference, you have to take advantage of those chances. But at the same time, this is the Chicago Fire. And again, I feel like just looking at this game, this was a very typical Chicago Fire role performance where they do well, and they definitely show some fight, but they also made some boneheaded decision that basically cost them the game in this one. In the 12th minute, Carranza had a shot that was clear off the line by Jimenez, as both team was getting some good earlier chance for the opener. And it looked like we did get the opener in the 16th minute when Kamara puts it into the back of the net, but unfortunately it wouldn't have counted because the goal was disallowed for offside. Bedoya then hits one just wide from close range before Blake had to deny Shibilko and his chance to score against his former team. But this is where things really turn for its worse for the Philadelphia Union, because on that save, Blake immediately grabbed his scoring. And you can see he was definitely in a lot of pain, and he would eventually be subbed off in this one, and Joe Bendik would come in, and we'll see whether or not how severity of an injury this is for Andre Blake, and how is he gonna miss significant time, because if that is the case, that is a huge blow to the Philadelphia Union, especially their chances of winning CCL, because there's a lot of impact player on this team, but if there's one player that I think is an impact player that they just simply cannot lose, and this is no disrespect to Joe Bendik, but the impact that Andre Blake has to this Union team is just next to none, and just kind of almost irreplaceable. And like I said, we'll see how bad the injury it is going to be, and if it is going to be a bad injury, yeah, this is a huge blow for the Union chances in terms of winning CCL this year. But nevertheless, in the 39th minute, Kamara did miss wide on the header, and we head to halftime with the game scoreless at 0-0. But in the second half, we would see a red card in the second half as Fabian Herbert would get his second yellow card. Yeah, this was just a terrible challenge for Fabian Herbert. You cannot make that sliding challenge when you're already on a yellow card. So the Fire was down to 10 man, and you just kind of had a sense that even without Blake in this one, the Fire pretty much have no chance in terms of winning this game. But to their credit, they still fought hard, they played well, and limited the chances that the Union has. Bedoya then with a shot right in front of goal before Torres would hit it wide from close range. Bedoya then denied, Brady would then deny Wagner from close range in the 86th minute, but there was no doubt the Union was piling the pressure. Like, they were desperate to try to get a winner. And I know, even though this is a game that, the Union feel like maybe they could just punt it away and focus on the Anza Resort, the fact that they're facing against what many say is one of the worst team the worst team in the Eastern Conference, and they're also a man up. Yeah, they have to win this one, and thankfully they did get that crucial opening goal, as in the 90th minute, Joaquin Torres would score his first goal for the Philadelphia Union from Jose Martinez, but he can thank Chris Brady for this, because, yeah, Brady should have saved this one. I mean, this was just a one-hopper that Brady completely misjudged it, and I do feel bad for Chris Brady, because I know there's going to be a lot of Fire fans that will be mad about him mishandling that one, but you got to remember, this is his first MLS game, and that I can definitely see that there was a lot of nerves that you can see from this kid, and I think that's just going to be something that I think he's going to continue to learn. All young goalkeepers going to make mistakes like this, and that was kind of unfortunate to see there, and just also unfortunate that it happened in the 90th minute. And then in the second minute of stoppage time, it looked like it was 2-0 when Chris Sullivan puts it into the back of the net, but the goal was disallowed for offside. But it's just another example of, if this Union team gets one goal, the second one is not gonna come far from after scoring the first, and they almost made it 2-0 there. And then in the third minute of stoppage time, to make things worse, Chicago were down to 9 men, as Kai Kamara would get himself a red card and actually get a second yellow here, but it would have been a straight red either way, because he kicked out on Carranza. Yeah, when you kicked out like that, that is a red card, and he knew it immediately. Won't be surprised if maybe there are even more disciplinary action on Kai Kamara than just the one game, because when you kick out like that, usually that could be a multi-game suspension. But nevertheless, the Union was able to walk away with a 1-0 victory. Shots at this one, 14 shots compared to 12 that Chicago has, 2 shots on goal compared to 3 that the Union has, 8 shots off target compared to 7 that the Union has, or 7 that the Fire has, that is. 3 shots that was blocked for both of these teams, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that the Chicago Fire has in this game. But like I said, it might have come with a big cost because of the health of Andre Blake, and they hope that he's going to be only out for a couple of weeks, and we'll definitely talk about in the news of the week how many weeks potentially Andre Blake is going to be missing for this Philadelphia Union side. But that being said, moving on in the next match, we got TFC versus the Columbus Crew, and I think both of these teams will be very frustrated the fact that they didn't get all 3 points in this one, because there was some big opportunities, especially late in this game, where there was just some golden opportunity for both of these teams to grab that second goal to get all 3 points, and instead it didn't happen. But in the first half, Zarian did have a shot that was deflected and goes high before there was a half shout for a handball from the TFC fans that was not given. But it was a scrappy start to this game. I mean, again, chances were limited for both of these teams. But as soon as I wrote that, we did get the opening goal of the game, as in the 24th minute, Kerr would score here from Osorio to make it 1-0 in favor of TFC. Nagby did try to look to tie it for Columbus, but that one goes right to Johnson before Mark-Anthony Kaye would pose it just wide from close range, and then Osorio actually went through on goal there, but he hits it right to Sean Johnson, and that's definitely one that Jonathan Osorio will want to have back. But definitely a solid first half for TFC as they head to halftime with a 1-0 lead. In the second half, though, this is when Columbus really started to gain some steam and trying to get the equalizer. It started with Maria puts one high from a long-range effort, and then Morris was on the doorstep of goal there, but he missed that one wide as Columbus was pushing to try to get the equalizer. Cucho then heads it wide from close range as it just feels like Toronto was just holding on to this 1-0 lead, and that is a very dangerous thing for Bradley's side, because we know this is a team that, you know, with how fragile that backline has, you just kind of have the feeling that it wasn't going to happen, where one goal probably is not going to be enough for them to win this game, and surely, or lo and behold, that of course was the case, because in the 76th minute, Columbus finally got their deserved equalizer. It's Jimmy Medranda scoring from Aiden Morris to tie the game up at 1 apiece. Now, originally this goal was overruled, or this goal was called offside, but they later overruled via VAR, and I'm glad that they kind of overruled that, because what a chip this is for Medranda. Like that was a spectacular chip there to beat Sean Johnson there from that range. But yeah, that ties the game up at 1 apiece. Dagnick then hits it wide in the 79th minute as Columbus was pressing to try to get the winning goal in this one. But then in the 85th minute, this is where I was talking about how both of these teams should have got all 3 points in this one. Larea, yeah, 4 yards out, he puts that one wide. That is definitely one that he's going to be thinking about all week, because, you know, I know Richard Larea is not known in terms of goal scoring, or at least ever since he returned to TFC, but that is one that he has to bury. Like there's no excuse in terms of missing a sitter like that from 4 yards out. But thankfully, he wasn't the only player to have a bad miss, because in the first man of stoppage time, the post would deny Cucho on his effort, but when the ball ricocheted off the post, Matano was literally right there to get the rebound and basically slots into the empty net, and yet somehow he puts that one wide. I mean, again, it's just mind-boggling how both of those chances that did not go in, and I think it kind of was deserved in terms of the score line of this game, as in the end, it ends in a 1-1 draw on this one. Shots in this one, 17 shots for the 7 that Toronto has, 3 shots on goal for the 4 that Columbus had, 9 shots off target to 2 that Toronto has, 4 shots that was blocked with the 2 that Toronto has, and possession-wise, 44% possession compared to 56% possession that the Columbus Crew has in this game. And again, I don't think this is a game that neither of these teams is going to be happy with the result. Again, TFC still have not able to get a win, and once again off to a slow start, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that injuries once again seems like it had derailed this team. And for the Columbus Crew, you know, they play well, at least in the second half, but just cannot quite get that crucial second goal. And especially when you are on the road and you're facing against a TFC team that hasn't been playing well and been battling with injuries, 1 point is definitely not enough for Wilfred Nancy's side. They want to have aspiration of finishing in near the top half of the table. But that being said, moving on in terms of the last game of this review is Sporting KC and the LA Galaxy, and it's safe to say that Sporting is snake bitten right now because this is now 3 straight games where they're unable to find the back of the net, and this is also the 2nd straight game where they found themselves recording 11 shots on goal, and they even recorded more shots in this one than they did in the game against the Colorado Rapids, and yet they still put a goose egg at the end of this game in terms of the goal scoring tally. But early on in the first half, Tommy would put one right to Bond before Shelton would head it wide from close range, and right off the bat, Sporting KC was pressing to end their season opening goal drought to try to get the opening goal. Shawi had a chance in the 3rd minute, but he hits one right to Bond, and I also feel like the Galaxy were looking like picked up where they left off in terms of defensive wise. I mean, just so many sloppy giveaway, and that, you know, the only reason why this game ended 0-0, I really think, is because of bad finishing from Sporting KC and Jonathan Bond kind of trying to one-up William Yarbrough in terms of just single-handedly carry that back line and bailing that back line out with some incredible save. One of them came in the 27th minute as he denied Tommy in the near post. Eric Tommy was very active in this one, and he's been active at least in the first couple of weeks. But Espinoza then hits one right to Bond before Agada had a looping header that goes straight to Bond. I mean, William Agada, he's kind of part of the problem in terms of the goal scoring drought. Like last season, he was basically scoring almost every single game, but this year, he just simply cannot buy a goal for the Sporting KC side. But that goes the same for Eric Tommy too in the 42nd minute, and as he drags it wide from close range before Bond would deny Voltaire from long range. And again, the inability to finish and Bond just simply bailing this bad Galaxy backline is the reason why this game is still at 0-0. In fact, right on the stroke of halftime, Bond would make one more save here to deny Tommy from long range as we head to halftime, somehow still scoreless despite the fact that Sporting KC was peppering that Galaxy goal in the first half. Now in the second half, in the 53rd minute, Postgame had to call into action for the first time as he denied Alvarez and the first real good look for the Galaxy. And I thought it was a much better start for the Galaxy because after in the first half where they were by far second best and they were on the back foot, they started to limit those chances and started to create some of their chances of their own. But that didn't last long because eventually Sporting KC did get themselves back into a point where they were trying to finally break through of scoring that first ever goal this season. Tommy had a chance to do so, but he hits a one-hopper right to Bond before Agata flashed it wide on the header. Shawi then hits it right to Bond. The shots were now 27-3 in favor of Sporting KC. And up to that point, I was thinking, is Sporting KC going for the Quakes record in terms of the most shots in a game? Because, you know, I talked about before how, you know, the most shot in an MLS game is the game between the Quakes versus the Whitecaps, where the Quakes put up 43 shots against Maxime Crépeau, and Crépeau also had himself a record night too of the most save ever recorded by an MLS goalkeeper. But at least the good news about that game is the fact that the Quakes were able to win that one. This has to be very frustrating if you're a Sporting KC fan, where you're putting 27 shots and you're putting almost, I think up to that point, almost near double-digit shots on target, and yet the score still reads 0-0 after 65 minutes in this one. Johnny's then hits one wide from close range in the 72nd minute before Shawi would hits one right to Bond. And again, it just looked like it wasn't going to happen for Sporting KC. And I kind of maybe lost that belief right around the 70th minute when some of those chances that they were putting in. Like, you can tell when a team is struggling to score goals and just have no confidence in front of goal by some of the chances that they had, because I think some of the chances, especially in the second half, are just some frustration chances where it just looked like neither of these Sporting KC player was going to put it into the back of the net, and that turns out the case in this game too, as it's a scoreless draw between Sporting KC and the LA Galaxy, second straight scoreless draw for Sporting this season. And the shots in this one, it turns out Sporting KC didn't end up registering 40-plus shot, but it's still pretty impressive. 30 shots compared to just 8 that the Galaxy had. 11 shots on goal compared to 2 that the Galaxy had. 8 shots that was off target compared to 1 that the Galaxy had. 5 shots that was blocked compared to 11 that Sporting KC had, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that Sporting KC has in this game. And I even went on their Reddit page, and I think someone posted like one of this meme where a bunch of these fans basically hold the arrow and pointed that is where the goal is. And I wonder whether or not if the Cauldron is going to do the same thing in the next game, or one of the other end is going to do the same thing here, because like I said, this team is just simply snake bitten. Like, they just cannot find the back of the net. And unfortunately, you know, I will say that I'm going to reiterate what I said about Sporting KC when I talk about in the season preview of how to end this goal drought. You just got to keep at it. And I think that's probably the message for Peter Vermees with this team. You know, they just simply have to keep at it. They just got to know that eventually one of them will go in. Because I really think that with this Sporting KC side, if they can just score one goal, like in the next game, if they can score one goal, I guarantee you they can score 2 or 3 or 4 in a quick succession, because I've seen it before, and this is kind of the classic case with strikers too, where if you can put one in, you definitely have that confidence of putting 2 or 3 goals, and that the goal will definitely look wider. But if you're in a goal drought like what we see for Sporting KC, it's no wonder a lot of those players are seeing the goal very narrow to a point where they just have no confidence in terms of putting one in. So yeah, we'll see whether or not if they do end the goal drought in the next game. And again, they're one of the 2 teams that have yet to fail to register a goal in the first 3 games of the season. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of the review of the first 8 games as part of the first part of the review for match week number 3. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these games? And like I said, I'll do part 2 tomorrow, and that include the game that's coming up in just a bit between the New England Revolution and LAFC. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.